luck and skill when evaluating the outcomes of investments. It's something that I read about a long time ago. I think it was in a book called The Art of Thinking Clearly, and it's something that I go through quite a bit in my thinking of trying to understand the the analysis of getting something right versus just getting lucky. So how do you go through thinking about that?
Yeah, it's a critical question. Whenever you're thinking about an asset manager, it can often be very challenging to separate that luck versus the skill. And in particular, because people can always back rationalize why they held a certain set of positions and explain why those returns came the way that they did. I think there's probably two ways in which I would think about that problem. The first way is to think about it from a sample size perspective. The higher probability that there's a much higher probability that luck has a more meaningful influence when you have lower sample size. And I think we all sort of know the stories of people who called one or one and a half big shorts, and then for the subsequent 15 years couldn't make any money because they got lucky. It's not totally luck, but they were certainly helped meaningfully by luck on a small sample size outcome. And so part of the thing you want to look at is you want to look at that sample size. You could start to see and start to believe in skill increasingly when you have more and more bets that you can look at over more and more time through more and more cycles. I actually think from that perspective, the last 5 years is actually a really good time frame to evaluate a lot of managers. And the reason why that is the last 5 years, we've basically experienced every macroeconomic environment you possibly could have experienced. And so from there, you get a pretty good sense as to whether or not the return outcomes that you're seeing, are they just simply following the market, or is there something differentiated relative to that? So sample size, across market environments and across number of bets and time and things like that's important. And then you have to link that to process. A lot of times people will just look at outcomes and they'll say, okay, well, that person called the fact that stocks were going to be up for a long, since October of 2022, and therefore they're smart. And you're like, okay, but if what their process is to just say buy stocks, buy stocks, buy stocks, is that a process? Is that luck? Versus people who can bring a compelling reason why their outcomes are repeatable, because that's what you care about. You actually don't care about what historical returns are because they're totally useless to you. You cannot achieve historical returns in the future. So what you have to see is what is the process, because the process will define what the future outcomes will be. And that's the most important thing, pairing those two things, the empirical observation to significant enough sample size with a process. You put those two things together. If you can get something that's reasonable and reasonably reliable, then you can have more confidence that it's a matter of skill, not luck.